and I wouldn't take those bribes at all. I mean, I was offered a new car, I was offered all sorts of stuff.
Today, we have a legendary guest. It's Steve Borock. Not only did he work for CGC, he helped found CGC. So he's likely graded billions with a B dollars worth of comic books, and his experience is amazing. So, Steve, let me start with this question. Why was CGC created? And tell me a little bit about its history.
I was tapped uh, for the position of primary grader, restoration detection expert, and uh, I thought the gig would be cool, but they wanted a holder that was unopenable. And I was like, look, man, you can't put stuff in plastic. Can't we just get a Mylar and seal it up and let people take their books out? And they were like, no, that's not how certification works. They showed me the coins, the cards, right? And I was like, yeah, this could work, but it needs to be openable and tamper evident. So this way, people were getting ripped off on eBay. I always say it was the Wild West, especially the novices. They don't get the book in and check the centerfold or check for a missing coupon right away. I told them, okay, that works for me. Let's do it. But the ethics have to be run, 100%. I sold my comic collections so people wouldn't think that I would downgrade theirs because it was, rivaling mine or better, right? It was all these conspiracy theories at the beginning. They were calling us carpetbaggers. I mean, I picked Mark Haskell as second in command, who became president when I left, because he was young, hungry for knowledge, but he had more knowledge about, pre-code horror, things like that than I did. And he was also super honest. So I've been offered a lot of bribes over the years. I'm not going to mention names, of course, but if I could have been bought, he couldn't have. So it was a perfect person to put in place, right? And he's brilliant. He's also one of my dearest friends. I consider him family. But there was this big outfit that didn't want him. And because he's honest and he can catch restoration and so on and so forth. So I didn't know this. I get called to a meeting with Eichenbaum, Maben, and Salzberg and for lunch. And they said, we have a concern about your pick. And I said, well, you said I could run it my way. I could pick my team. And I picked them on ethics. I picked them on knowledge. I picked them on grading skill. You know, they were like, well, we've had a concern from a major player that's, going to be, involved. And I was like, let me guess, it's this person. And they were like, kind of like, I knew who it would be because he wouldn't take bribes or wouldn't be bullied, right? And that's why I love him. He's a true hobbyist. He's pro hobby, not just pro himself. He came on board and we hired Paul Litch, who is, now really high up in the company. But, we trained him. And the reason that I picked him was because he was very young and not kid or anything, but, they're like a sponge, right? If they love the hobby, young talent doesn't have the ego that other people like, I've been grading this way for 40 years. Why shouldn't I, blah, 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 blah. Because we had to set the standards. So we went to some of the a lot of the top dealers and a lot of the top collectors and had them grade the same books. So I had to be there. I couldn't just mail them. I had to make sure that they were handling them properly. And even though I knew they would, I just, had to be there to see if, somebody put a tiny finger crease in something and it would skew the average. There are some people we threw out golden age grades, and there's some people we threw out their silver age and bronze age grades because there's such a difference on how some people look at books by age. Um, but so we set the standards that way. Uh, it wasn't going to be my standards. I was known as a very tight grader. My friend Martin Rosenberg always says I was easy to buy from and hard to sell to. um, so anyway, once again, I wanted to protect the hobby, and there's people out there that just want to take advantage of people, and it's disgusting. Um, you know, they call it a hobby, but some people are starting to call it an industry, where we called it fandom, right? There's more love in that name. I mean, I had the greatest mentors, whether it was Jerry Weiss, Bob Overstreet, just great people. Um, and when we started, they all these people were like, "I'm never going to use you," blah blah. But some people were very smart. John Verzel, uh, Josh Nathanson, who owns Comiclink and created it, um, they came on board right away. They knew what it could do, and they saw the future. But we were handing out when we started $500 coupons to dealers and $300 coupons to major collectors to try our service for free. I mean, that was a lot of money back then. I mean, what moderns were like $14, and something silly, and about half of them never used it. And then after about a year, I'd get calls from major players going, "Hey, I'm going to try it. Things look good." I'm like, "Okay." And they're like, "So I have this $500 coupon." I was like, "No, you don't." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "It expired 6 months after, I gave it to you." I said, "The date's on the coupon," you know, and, but the smart guys used it. And I remember Bob Storms from highgradecomics.com, very honest guy, and a good friend. He came running up to the CGC table and said, "I can't believe it. I just sold this Hulkwood 81 and 9/8 for like, I don't know, $2,000, right?" Uh, and I think it was selling for like half, at the time. I'm making up a number because my brain is like a sieve and I can't remember all the minutiae of the hobby. Then it became more of a monster, right? It was like, if it's not graded, these places won't sell them, right? I don't mean not cheap books. I'm talking about expensive books. Though some people were sending in real garbage, and just because they were novices probably, and they had in their head that if they send in their $16 book, it's to become, 100. And, it's still a $16 book. I remember at the beginning, we would call people, Mark and I got this one Thor 158. Is that the cover with the three Thors in his face? I think that's it. It was shaped like an egg. That's how much wear it had. So it was a one book submission. And so I picked up the phone, called the guy, and I said, "Look, you're just going to waste your money. I'll send it back for free." And he goes, "Oh, no, 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 I need it graded. I need it graded." I said, "What for?" And he said, "It's the first comic book my dad ever gave me." And I said, "Okay, I get it." Then we made a few more calls, and only one person took some books back. But the rest were like, "No, grade them." So we stopped making those calls. It was taking up too much time as we were getting in more and more books. But I remember at the beginning, there was only like, I don't know, 800 books in the safe. And Mark and I walked in and were like, "Oh no, how are we going to grade 800 books?" And now it's like 80,000, right?
So you mentioned some people trying to bribe you when you were at
Mhm.
CGC, and we've had this
Yeah.
larger discussion about ethics. So could you enlighten folks a little bit about what are some ethical issues in the hobby and some suggestions that you might have about how they may be addressed?
there's so many different parts of ethics. Teaching people instead of screwing them, right? Some young person comes to me and shows me a book and says, "Can I get 500 out of this?" Instead of saying, "I'll buy it for 500," I go, "No, man, you get like 15 out of it, if you put it in auction and get it rated, whatever." Um, it's just about being honest, about being nice. There's people come in after somebody passes or with like a 3-year-old price guide, and they're like, "This is what it's worth." And we know that certification sells over price guide prices anyway, right? If it's a good book. And I've also had, we also have some people who try to enter into the auction area, and they shill bid their own stuff that they bought. If they don't think it's going high enough, they'll put a bid in on their own, which is crazy. What I do is when I go places for consignment or outright buy, um, I bring my computer and I set it up, and then I show them comps as opposed to saying, "Oh yeah, this black and white stuff. Yeah, there's a reason it's in this portfolio, not hanging up. It's not worth anything, but I'll give you $100." And the guy walks away with $100,000 worth of stuff. It's not how we should be on this planet. The new generation, then, or yeah, I guess new, because next generation would be pretty old, you know. But like I said before, they're like sponges. So if you catch them at the right time, you can tell them who to stay away from, who to buy from. And then, like the other day, this gentleman that I've taken under my wing, great ethics and everything. He just he's not seasoned yet. And so that's why I work with him. And I don't make any money. I just like helping people. He was like, "Oh, so the guy will take, this much for this?" I was like, "Maybe, I think so." And then he goes, "Well, if he would take this, would he take this?" It's like, wait a minute. No. I'm not calling somebody for you. It's a friend of mine and offering him, this much money under his price. And then if he agrees, I'm not going to say, "Can you do better?" Right? You have to leave meat on the bone for everybody. And there's too many people who don't, right? What's that Wall Street saying? Bears make money, bulls make money, pigs get slaughtered, right? Um, and so that's part of ethics, dealing with people nicely, not worrying about every penny, right? But the ethics are, don't break a handshake. You have a deal, you can't go back 2 days later going, "I don't like this deal," unless, of course, you find a restored book or, whatever it is that's legitimate. But, it's wrong. This is a business. It's not regulated. That's a big problem. You don't lie to get a book, right? You don't go, "Oh man, can't you do better? It's my personal collection." And then, you see it a month later, online or at somebody else's table and the guy made money. So you just don't want to do that. And I want to leave a legacy that, like, Jerry Weiss left and Bob Overstreet's going to leave and John Bursley left. We have to carry on to the next generation to make sure that we protect our hobby as well as them. I'd like to talk about the Hero Initiative, which is, near and dear to my heart. I don't know how I got on the board. If everybody in our hobby gave $1 to the Hero Initiative, right? Think about how many people there are. We could help the people that came before us as creators that gave us so much joy and never made money off their art, never made money off their writing. They were paid, a great story. Friends with Don Perowin. I helped him with his art collection. And he was talking, we were just having lunch, and he was talking about the old days of the bullpen. And Don's meticulous. He's, a real, graphic artist. And so he always erase this little thing, or erase this, or maybe even erase the whole panel, change it. And he got moved behind Buscema. And he was really kind of excited. He likes art. And John, I guess he was behind John for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. And he walked over and he said, John, you never seem to use an eraser. You're that good. He goes, I'm not that good. He goes, they pay me to draw. They don't pay me to erase because they're getting paid by the page, right? Now, these days, a guy will do a cover for, get paid 700 and then sell it for 3,000, right? So we need to take care of these people. So we pay for their hospital, we pay for food, we pay for Ubers if they need it, taxis, housing. We actually bought somebody a trailer home. I don't mention names because some people might not want to be known that they need help. Some people are very proud, and it's just one of the most amazing things we can do for our hobby. And you can just go to their website, donate $1 and walk away, or buy a piece of swag. I want to make sure that every penny that should go to them goes to them.